There's been a lot that has been happening around TIME Wonderland. There's been a huge scandal, actually multiple, that I'm going to talk about and try and explain to the best of my ability, just from what I've seen on Twitter and from news outlets. Then I'm going to go over what I think the future of TIME Wonderland is, what Daniele Sesta is trying to do, and what he has done. He is part of the scandals. And go over my thoughts and Daniel's thoughts on the future of TIME Wonderland and where we really think that it's going. So TIME Wonderland was a fork of Ohm. There's both Daniele Sesta, which is the main head honcho of TIME Wonderland, and then there's Sifu, which is the guy who's in charge of the treasury. And the TIME Wonderland DAO doesn't work like other DAOs, where the users or investors are really in charge of all the decisions. There's just like a handful of people who are in charge of the decisions. That's not how a typical DAO works or a typical Ohm fork works. Normally you have to go through a voting process to figure everything out. They do seem like they've been a little bit better at this recently, but the whole time this project has been operating, it's just been a few people who have been in charge of what happens with the project. Now, Daniele Sesta is very out in the open. He's a very public figure, but Sifu, the guy who's in charge of the treasury and in charge of basically the financials of the project, he was an Anon until recently. And we'll get into that, but I want to go through the scandals chronologically so we get an overarching picture of the current state of things and how everything has played out over the last month or so. So first of all, TIME Wonderland went down from around $9,000 down to around maybe 1,000. And that was just like the DAO apocalypse. Everything was doing bad. The market was doing bad. All crypto was doing bad. And it went down to that much. But then around January 18th, this swag guy, SW4G_CT on Twitter, I'm just going to call him swag, but he says that Sifu stole around $8.4 million worth of time from the treasury. They looked at the movement from the treasury and the wallet it went to, and they just thought that it was Sifu doing this. He made a whole thread about this. Sifu and Daniele, of course, said it was FUD, and it was not real. It was just people trying to create FUD around the project. Now, no one really knows if this really happened or if it didn't, but there is this guy accusing them of this. Of course, they're going to deny it. So that's a huge red flag that this would even happen. And the reason why he did this was so that he could add more collateral to his position so that he wouldn't get liquidated. So what a lot of people were doing were the 9x9, where you take time, you then wrap it in memo, you then use the memo to take out a loan against the value of your memo, and then you have a liquidation price where then you can take more money. You can get more money by loaning it out so that you can invest it back in the time, and instead of 3x3, it then becomes 9x9. But what happens is when the price goes down, if you can get liquidated, which means that you have to sell it off, and there's a huge penalty fee. I think it was like 12%, 10% liquidation fee. So of course he took the theory is he took this money, he then used it as more collateral so he wouldn't get liquidated. But then he got liquidated anyways because of the rapid downtrend, and probably people knowing about this then sold off, made the price go down even more. So this was a red flag that happened back on the 18th. I wasn't too on the pulse about this. I didn't really see this happening when it did happen. I recently found out about this. So that's a huge red flag. The next part of the scandal happened when Sifu was outed as this guy right here, who has been part of a bunch of other scams. He's actually done 2 years in federal prison. So he was outed as this guy who has done scams before, financial scams, has done actual time in prison, and has felonies against him, right? So Sifu was outed as this guy, and then Vice even did an article about the co-founder being an infamous fraudster, which shook up the investors, and it really did. And once this came out on Vice, we saw the price go down from like $800 to $200. So the project did not see good feedback from the articles coming out. And on top of that, Daniele said that he knew about this the whole time. He still decided to make Sifu the guy who was in charge of the financials, which is super sketchy, super sus. He went on to say he likes he's made many friendships where they're based off trust and putting the past behind you and judgment and reputation behind you. But I mean, if this guy is literally a felon and has done time for federal crimes, that should be a red flag. You shouldn't have this guy working on the financials of a project, in my opinion. Now, whatever. I mean, that's a red flag for Daniel. I don't think he should have known about this, but whatever. Give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't even know what that means. But this is not good for the project, because one of the main leaders has done 2 years for a federal crime relating to financial crimes, and the guy who was in charge knew about it and allowed this to happen. That is not good. Of course, then they had a vote to vote out Sifu. Of course, they voted out Sifu. So here was the vote to actually vote out Sifu, and of course, almost 90% of people said replace Sifu. I don't know who would want to keep Sifu. He's a known felon for literally scamming people in the past. But this was the vote to keep Sifu in his position as Treasury Manager. Now, there was another vote that was wind down Wonderland and give the Treasury back to the holders. This was really close. The yeses actually had it. Apparently it was Wales who voted yes at this at first, and it was up. They were up like 60% on the yes to wind down TIME Wonderland. They wanted to be bought out for the Treasury backing for what they were holding in wrapped memo. So when this was still with the yeses in the lead, Daniel came out with this that said it's clear that Wonderland experiment is coming to a end. The community is divided. If we cannot agree on whether to continue or not, it means we have failed. So Daniel at this point is fully on board. What date is this? This is the 30th. He's fully on board for winding down the project, paying back the people from the Treasury. I think he was getting death threats. He wants nothing to do with this project at this point. Then Sifu actually in the Discord said, hey, we need to fight back against the yeses and make sure that the TIME Wonderland project goes on. Sifu says that there's more yeses. That's when the yeses take the lead on this measure, or the no's take the lead on this measure right now to wind down the project. And somewhere in here, Daniel even says he doesn't agree with what Sifu was doing in the Discord, and he does not back the project. He wants the project to come to a close. After Sifu said that, the community came and backed the project, and they said, no, let's not wind down TIME Wonderland. So after that, Daniel, the next day after he said, I'm not on board, he's like, all right, I'm on board. We heard you. Let's go for it. So now it's just confusing. It's like, Daniel, do you want to do this or do you not want to do this? Are you on board? Are you not on board? You literally just said that you're not on board. Now you're saying you're on board. Then Daniel says, I'm working closely with Wonderland and WAGMI community monitors, support, yada, 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 FUD. So now he's on board. He's trying to work with people to actually find a solution. As you can see here, you guys were split. They're working on a vote to see if some people want to be bought out at the Treasury backing or if people want to keep the project going. And now he's working with people to keep the project going. He's kind of going back and forth. He kind of wants to see what the sentiment is behind the project before moving forward, which is kind of wishy-washy. It's making everyone confused. No one knows what's going to happen. So that's the huge scandal that's been going on. Now, if you want to get out of Wonderland, just get out. Don't wait for them to pay you out at the Treasury backing. Right now it's doing horrible. It's at $300. And Wrapped Memory is at $21,000. I'm personally down like 15 grand, 20 grand on this project. So I'm not happy about this. This is just how it played out. I knew that there was risks. I knew that it was going to be volatile. I did not ever think that this was going to happen. But whatever. I mean, you know the risk going in and you know what's going to happen. So what are my thoughts on this? I think that Daniel should not have let Sifu been the Treasury manager, especially if he knew his past. I think that's a huge red flag for Daniel. I think as soon as Daniel saw that he maybe could have stole the money from the Treasury, the $8 million from the Treasury, he should have then came out and said something, tried to remove him, done something, and he did nothing. I don't like this. I used to really like Daniel. I used to trust him a lot. And now I just don't know if I can put the same trust behind Daniel in any future projects that he makes. Now, my money is still in Wrapped Memories. It's still in this project. I kind of want to wait and see what happens. I probably should have pulled out a long time ago. I should probably pull out right now, to be honest. I'm going to sit it out. I'm going to see what happens. I don't know if I can ever trust Daniel again. I'll see on his future projects. I've honestly been looking at node projects a lot. Maybe if Daniel makes a node project, I might be able to get behind that. But yeah, I don't really trust the team and their decision making. Daniel needs to put less trust in people. If it's business, sure, you can have friends that you put aside their past, but being someone's friend and having them work and be a huge part of a treasury and a project that a lot of people are getting behind and you're putting your face behind, you should care about the stuff that they've done in the past. Because they've done it before, they're likely going to do it again. So I don't know if Sifu had ill intentions. I don't know if he stole the money, but you shouldn't trust him with access to that kind of money, especially with his background. There is so much bad press behind this project that I don't know if it can ever come back to the same level it was at. You know, it might come back a little bit as the market starts to do a little bit better. I don't think that it'll ever come back in full swing. Maybe they'll buy us out at the treasury backing. Maybe they'll try and keep the project going. I don't know. I'm in it. I'm just in it for the long run now. I'm going to see what happens. And hopefully you guys did not lose as much money as I did, because it really sucks. But yeah, I'm going to be looking at other more solid projects that I can be putting my money into now. After this, I do not like how this project turned out at all. If you want more updates on TIME or other projects that I think are actually worth your time and going to pay out, definitely consider subscribing and leaving a like on this video. I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.